In case you didn't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the fastest growing sports in America. I've actually been applying my CrossFit fitness to Jiu-Jitsu for about a year at HeadNodHQ, which is owned and operated and run by the amazing Josh McKinney, who's going to be on our podcast today and talk to us about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, about HeadNodHQ. We're going to learn the origin story and learn from him what it's like to be an actual black belt badass in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So stick around.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast. Great to have you here. This is where, we get to meet and learn from our CFE CrossFitters. We get to learn occasionally from our coaches and also occasionally talk with local business owners, which we get to do today. I'm so excited. My name is Dallas Amston. I'm your co-host. Communicate to Succeed. I help business owners set their presentations and learn to speak, whether they're an introvert or an extrovert. I help you leverage your confidence and your authenticity on stage. And with me, as always, my co-host.
What's up, guys? I'm Coach G, the CEO, GM at CrossFit Edwardsville, and today we are excited to welcome the owner, the founder, the leader of HeadNodHQ, a Glen Ed area Jiu-Jitsu gym and movement. Josh McKinney is also a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, an experienced Jits competitor, the host of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu podcast, and he produces the Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu System. Everybody, please help me in welcoming the great Josh McKinney. Welcome, Josh.
Man, thank you guys for having me on. I knew I was going to get interviewed by Greg Skelly, so I made sure that me and my wife went out and got a cold brew coffee today so I could fuel up and I could be on Greg Skelly's. All right.
I'm holding one too right now.
I already pounded mine. I just wanted to be right in it, right, getting the benefit right from the beginning.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll also get your absolute best energy that way. See, you're promoting the jiu-jitsu movement, and I'm promoting the cold brew movement. So we're doing good in the world here.
And Josh said to me right before we hit record, everybody, Josh said, Dallas, by the end of this, you're going to be ready to be doing jiu-jitsu. Well, Greg's already converted me on the cold brew coffee, so who knows? Maybe you can convert me by the end of this, Josh.
I'll do my best.
I got him on the CrossFit. I got him on the cold brew. And so, anyway, in case you didn't know, to our audience here, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one of the fastest growing sports in America. I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu myself for about a year at Josh's HeadNod HQ, the Granite City location. Josh is actually one of my coaches. I've had the privilege from learning from him in the gym, in person. And then Dallas.
Yeah, and on the podcast today, everybody, we're going to get to learn from Josh directly about HeadNodHQ, the origin story, the brand itself. But first, we actually, as always, as you guys know, we get to dive a little deeper and learn more about Josh as a man, not just the myth and the legend, but as a man, the founder, the athlete, and the entrepreneur. So, Josh, are you excited to get rolling into this convo?
I'm ready to go, because you guys introed me a lot cooler than I actually am. So I'm like, man, let's see where this one goes.
If only he can live up.
Yeah, you set the bar high.
You did.
Well, Josh, let's start with a couple of easy questions because G's been doing this for a year, but for the noobs, again, I've only been there one time, but for the noobs in the crowd, let's start with a couple of easy questions. What is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Okay, so Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just a style of grappling. All grappling is fighting without strikes. A lot of times we grapple with our brothers and our sisters growing up. It's very normal, right? It's just wrestling with each other. Like high school wrestling is another form of grappling. Jiu-Jitsu is just a little different than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a little different than all the other forms, actually just because of one position or one idea. And that was the idea that it's okay to be on your back in these type of grappling fights, as long as your legs are protecting your upper body or protecting your neck and your arms, as long as your legs are in between you and your opponent. What Greg and I would call this, because we do jiu-jitsu, is called the guard. If you watch UFC, you see people in the guard. And that's the idea of the guard, is my legs are the strongest part of my body. And so if I'm on my back, they need to be in between you and I, because if not, you're going to be able to control so much distance. If we're in a fight, you're going to be able to hit me, and I can't push you away without my legs. It's going to be much harder to push you away without my legs. And so that is really what jiu-jitsu is, and what separates it from some of the other grappling arts that you might see advertised, like Japanese jiu-jitsu or judo and things. They use the guard, but not in the way of jiu-jitsu where you say, hey, it's not only okay to be on my back, but I can actually beat up somebody much bigger, stronger, more explosive than I am off my back if I have the right technique. And that's really what jiu-jitsu is, and what separates it from other grappling.
Got it. So it's a submission fighting grappling art that has a unique set of tools, a unique set of advantages that allow you to be, I guess, safe or even proactively defensive in different positions.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like anything else, right? CrossFit, yes, CrossFit can help you get big muscles, but it can also help you do so many other things, right? And so for jiu-jitsu, we can apply jiu-jitsu from so many different things. I was in Indianapolis coaching all weekend, and I had the same time I was coaching at the tournament, one of my students was at the gym teaching a women's self-defense seminar. Right? These are two completely different things, right? Self-defense and a competition where you're fighting people. But we were both using jiu-jitsu. We were just applying it differently, expressing it differently. And so it's something that's really cool about it is, yeah, I may give a definition, but you could interview 1,000 black belts and they would give completely different definitions, and they'd all be right, because it has so many lenses you can look through. And that's what makes it really fun.
And it's really fun about that. It's really opened my eyes to a lot of fitness possibilities. And like, I found there's like a primal draw to being able to like defend yourself against bad situations. Walking into a room where I just know that if the shit hits the fan, if a bad situation goes down, I could probably take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
A big draw of jiu-jitsu is having that, just the knowledge inside of myself that I could probably do considerably better than the average untrained person if I just know a little bit about how to keep myself safe.
The BA factor goes from like a 4 to a 5, a 5 to a 6.
It really does.
So, for Josh, what was it for you? Like, what originally attracted you to jiu-jitsu in the first place?
So I have grappled since I was 8 years old. We would buy, and it was actually Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style. We would buy VHS tapes that would have instruction on them. And Greg, you've met my dad. He's always been the same person. He's always been consistent. It's always been, hey, I want to learn something new. This is super interesting to me. Let's try it. And he would, in our garage, we would watch these Gracie self-defense tapes and do the moves. And then we would grapple with each other. We really didn't know what we were doing. And I did that for like 4 or 5 years, and then took a little bit of time off, and I started to gain weight. And I was probably 13 at this time, and I was overweight. And my mom basically was like, hey, you're going to play a sport. My school, I went to a small private school. There was no sports there. Hey, there's a gym that opened up 5 minutes from the house. You're going to go there and you're going to try out something there. And I knew what jiu-jitsu was. I was excited to try jiu-jitsu, but she still did. I was very introverted. She still had to push me. And literally I went in for the first day. I actually just did a podcast episode on my podcast with my coach talking about this. The first day, I'm the only kid. I'm 14. I just turned 14. Everybody, probably the closest person my age is 25 in the class. And my dad said, hey, do you think he would be old enough to do the class? And my coach, Kyle, who is still my coach 14 years later, looked me up and down and said, yeah, let's give it a try. Worst thing that happens is it doesn't work out. I'm like, okay. And we went and gave it a try, got done with my first class. And I don't think it was the light bulb of I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. But the light bulb was I'm definitely coming back tomorrow. And then throughout the first week, I go, okay, what days can I make it every single week? Oh, yeah, I have no life. I can make it every week. I can make it every day. And I mean, I really have been doing some sort of jiu-jitsu training every day since for the last 14 years.
So you're about 28 then, 29?
Yes, I turned 28 a few weeks ago.
Well, happy birthday on that.
Thank
That's
you.
exciting.
Thank
So,
you.
so talk to us then a little bit more about, obviously there is, as G said there, that's what keeps coming you back, as I got to do this every day now. Tell us a little bit more about your journey to becoming an actual jiu-jitsu instructor, and kind of your passion for teaching and motivating people.
Man, I would say the passion for teaching and motivating people came a lot later. I think for the longest time, my jujitsu journey was very much about me. It was about getting good. I wanted to get good. I was a competitor, and honestly, too, I was kind of by myself doing it. I didn't have a very big competition team, and I was competing at a really high level. And so it was literally me and my dad and my coach showing up to these big tournaments where you have teams of hundreds of people whose best guys are out there and everyone's cheering. And it was just that motivated me for a really long time. And it was like, I want to be able to compete with these guys. And I did for a long time. But honestly, when you have a selfish goal, it eventually just dwindles away. It just, I mean, you accomplish it or you don't, and it just kind of starts to fall away. And I started to notice, man, I care more about bringing a team to this than I care about anything, because I win these big tournaments, and the points that I should get for my gold medal, they go to a team that only has me on it. And so we're not competing for overall team points or anything like that. And it was just when I started really in the last few years, probably 3 or 4 years, I started trying to push for more competition for our gym and our team. And that's really when I started to say, oh, I'm a good motivator for these guys. And I can, these guys will work hard. And if they, with just the right guidance, they're going to be able to accomplish huge things. And so it just slowly became my job. And my job at the gym became less and less teaching every single class, and more just saying, hey, these are the people that have been with me. How do we get them to the next step and the next goal? And for me, seeing those guys succeed is like, that's the most fun part.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I love that. To me, like it takes a long time to get to like Josh McKinney level skill in jiu-jitsu, to get to that black belt level, right? It's a lot of time, a lot of years. And I keep coming back to this thought that for a Steve McKinney, your father, who's also a black belt, a Josh McKinney, a black belt, like in order to be a black belt now, you have to have started jiu-jitsu a long while back and way before it was cool in America. And that is just so awesome to me that you guys, like, you're like the ground floor of this amazing thing where it's now everybody knows about it now on account of the UFC is a big deal.
Right.
And so there's a lot of brand recognition to jiu-jitsu now, but you guys got in and you guys were actually practicing this skill before everybody knew about it, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's something that it's just something we loved, and that's kind of the beauty of it. Is as much as I would consider myself an entrepreneur now, I wasn't then. It wasn't about running my own school. It wasn't even about having something that made me money. I just knew when I was young that, like, hey, I want to do this forever. I really love doing this. This is art to me. I love to do this.
That's awesome. Oh, there you go, Dallas.
Yeah. So Josh, it's very cool, and I love hearing an entrepreneur's journey, because I don't think many entrepreneurs get into it for, I'm going to start a business. I think they get into it because of their passion first and foremost, and then it becomes a thing. So that's very exciting. So let's switch gears here. Let's talk about you as an entrepreneur. You're one of the co-founders of HeadNodHQ. It's a jiu-jitsu gym with multiple locations now. So this is your first business then, right? I mean, talk to us a little bit, maybe more, or is it not? Tell us about your journey. It is
not. The first time I really got into any business, my dad has had a personal training studio since before I was born, and that has really been the sole thing that provided for our family growing up. It paid for my brother and I to be able to go to a private school. It really, really has been this great thing for him. And so I've always been around business, but myself, I never worked on a business or even in a business until my dad and I, when we were training jiu-jitsu, we tried to release an instructional on weightlifting for MMA specifically, because we had a really good,
I love this. Keep going.
and so we had a really good, kind of tie to some MMA fighters, because, you know, there were guys fighting in the UFC that were training at the gym we were training at the time. The UFC wasn't as big, but if you were into UFC, if you were wanting to be an MMA fighter, you know, it was big. And so we were trying to do an online marketing product. And I remember we flew to Miami at one point to learn from a group of people that were really good. And honestly, at the time, it felt like a failure because we never really did much with it. But like, it was a really good lesson. And what actually happened after that was kind of my next venture was also in the jiu-jitsu MMA realm. Me and one of my friends, who's also a business owner, we started a t-shirt company. And it didn't start as a t-shirt company. It kind of just, as a lot of brands do, started as a fun thing. We had this joke that we were going to bring the HeadNod back. And, you know, you say hi to everybody, you head nod them, right? And we had this funny joke that we were going to do this. And one of the guys at my coach's gym started calling us the HeadNod Squad. And just at the time, it was this fun thing that we were doing, and people kept saying, you should make shirts for it. We started doing it. They started actually selling. We started sponsoring athletes. It really was becoming a really cool brand. And it's obviously where I got the name for my gym. My gym for the first 3 months didn't have a name. And because we just wanted to train, right? We had a space and we just wanted to train. And one day, one of my buddies came in and was saying, when are you guys going to get a name? And I go, I don't know. We're going to figure something out. And he goes, why not HeadNod? You know, it's your other business. And I go, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that. And eventually that business just profit versus how much work we were putting in, it just wasn't even comparable. And we would have needed to, in order to get it up, I think we really would have needed to go full time, but we both had much more successful businesses on our own that we were already using. And so eventually, probably 3 or 4 years ago, that died out. But those were some of my ventures before the current ones that I'm on.
Well, and that definitely, the next question we were going to ask is, tell us about the origin of HeadNod and where that name came from. You already kind of addressed that.
I did.
I love that, because when I was growing up, we would do the head nod to each other, but it was sup.
Sup. That's exactly what we would say. That was exactly what we would do. And we would go to these jiu-jitsu tournaments wearing shirts that said HeadNod Squad. And there was a time that we really did build this cool brand with it. And the nice thing is that wasn't a failure either, because I did get the name of my gym and I did get a lot of the beginning branding of my school from that.
Sure.
Is there anything more to the origin story that you need to share to give us the full picture of where HeadNod came from?
Man, honestly, I think that the cool thing is how it started before it actually started. When we were at the Hit Squad. The Hit Squad was a gym in Granite City. That's where I first started doing jiu-jitsu. It's where I met Kyle Watson, who's still my coach to this day. And they had a management change. And when they do, it was pretty much a huge turnover. Everybody was either leaving or they were going to try to renegotiate their contract, or they were getting fired. It was pretty much, we're going to put in all new people because this place is not making money, except for the jiu-jitsu program. And because Kyle was doing his own advertising and he was doing it, even though he was an employee of the gym, he was running the program really well. And so he went in to negotiate. It just didn't work out. And he kind of wanted to start his own gym on his own anyway. And so he moved into St. Louis City. For us, without traffic, it's like a 25-minute drive. But with traffic, it can be a really, really tough drive to make class times after work. And so
Sure.
there was a group of probably 6 or 7 of us in Illinois that needed they needed a place to train. And we still had this garage that we used to do jiu-jitsu in, that we used to grapple in, and we matted it. We got some other mats, got it ready, and we kept calling it Plan B JJ, because it was not what we were planning on doing. And then it turned into the jiu-jitsu garage. And so Greg, guys like Justin Huff, that's how we've been training together so long. Or even Mindy. Mindy has been training with us there for a long time. There's a good group of people that are still with us. And that was 8 years ago, probably. And or longer even. And so that was really when we moved and created HeadNodHQ. That's really why it wasn't like, hey, we're really excited to have a name for this and stuff, because we had been doing it for a long time. It was just now we actually had a commercial space to do it, and we could start making money doing it too. And so that's kind of why it was slow. It was just, we found the space. It was at the right price. It was just the perfect time. And we said, hey, let's start this business. Let's do it. And that's really the origin of where that came from.
That's amazing, dude. So then, how has HeadNod evolved since those early days? It sounds like HeadNod's been around for 8 years. Is that right?
So as a business, it's been around for 6. If you look at how long we were training with that group in the garage, it started when I was a blue belt. I have not been a blue belt since 2011, 2012, maybe.
All right.
Been a very long time. But the evolution has been slow, and it's tough to even explain, because it's not just the HeadNod. It's not just a gym. It's really a group of a lot of really unique and cool individuals, right? That's, I think, what makes it special is the group that we have. And each one of those people bring a little bit different of a mentality. You think about a guy like Robert Arias, Greg. He comes in. That guy is a mascot of the gym. He's been there since we opened commercially, right?
Sure.
He's been the same guy since we opened commercially. He's been the motivator. He's been a guy that hypes people up and is just super positive. And when you have 50 people like that, that all have great personalities they bring to the gym, and they really appreciate the gym. So they bring that personality and that excitement. It just creates something special. And like, as much as I would love to say, oh yeah, all you got to do is this, and you can create a really cool environment, I really think it was just, hey, we were really fortunate to get the right people.
Sure.
Well, I think that maybe you don't give yourself enough credit on this topic, because the culture always filters down from the leadership, right? And so who are the people that find themselves drawn to the HeadNod squad? There are people that find themselves drawn to Josh McKinney, Steve McKinney, right? And so people that resonate with you are the ones that start to form around you, and the culture goes from there. So I think you should give yourself some credit on that, because you are the one that ultimately architected the culture of it. And if there's an awesome vibe in the room where people are just they're joking with each other, they're very positive, there's that intensity during the training, but it's also this, there's a trust and a respect that your training partners are there to help you get better. They're not there trying to hurt you. That's just an awesome thing, and you should take full credit for that.
I would say the thing that I take the credit for in the gym is weeding out the people that shouldn't be there. That's something that I really, I will say that, because that's a job that somebody has to do and nobody wants to do. And if you want to have a good culture, you're going to have people that are attracted to it for the wrong reasons, or the wrong people attracted to it. And so for me, I would just when somebody didn't fit, for me, it hey, your monthly membership is not important to me, because you lower the value of this environment. You lower the value of that. And so one of the biggest things that I've done over time is push out bad people and try to promote good people. And
just a quick question on that, Josh. Is that usually done trial by combat, membership by combat?
It
you
depends.
Grapple them for their subscription.
It depends. So there are some people that just don't fit the environment.
Yeah.
And it's usually the people that cannot accept that you're going to start out losing. And
Sure.
for those people, it's actually not hard to weed them out because one, they don't like it already. They don't like to lose.
Sure.
And two, if you're not like, I'm sure that I could sell some of them. I'm sure I could chase down and sell some of them.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just, my gym really has been built on retention. That is why we survived the pandemic. We grew literally 50% in membership over the last 2 years. And
That's
it's
awesome.
because we add just a few people a month, but we just don't lose many people.
Yeah.
And I think that can only come when you meet the right people and you say, oh yeah, these people fit. Because there are a lot of people that do come in that I go, man, this guy, I don't care for him, or I don't think he's a good fit. And then especially something that we really don't do a lot of, that a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms care about doing, is we don't like people that don't train, or that do train and then are coming from somewhere else. It's very uncommon that we like and have let them come train with us. There are some people, of course, that are around us and we're like, oh, this dude's great. He lost his gym, he moved, whatever. Of course you come. But a lot of times these guys get kicked out of their gym because of personality issues and stuff. And just because they're really skillful, people go, oh, they matter. We should really make sure to get this guy. But we've always had an opposite mentality that like, hey, the people that have been with us the 6 years that he was training and not training with us, they matter more. This is who we focus on.
That I know we were going to ask you how you guys did during the pandemic, and you just sort of answered that. And it sounds like there's not a very high attrition rate. It sounds like there's high retention rates, which is awesome. And what you just brought up really is another thing we wanted to ask you about, because it sounds like you want to train with good people. Just because someone comes in from the outside doesn't mean that they fit the culture. So when it comes to kind of the mission of HeadNodHQ, mission statement, the vision, the core purpose, what do you kind of view your values as?
So for me, our current customers are number one priority. That is for my job, that is what matters. And what I mean by that is I like people that leave the gym. I always am like, hey, that's totally okay. We'd love if you came back. We're not going to chase you. People that we don't do contracts at our gym because if you don't want to train, you don't have to. Like, it's just for us, it's just always been like that like 100% guarantee when you go to HeadNodHQ, everyone there is happy to be there. They are happy to be there. That's all I care about, because that room is my sales funnel, right? If you walk through the door and you go, whoa, there are 40 people here like me that are really just happy to be here. And it's 1 hour each night, or every 1 hour, one night a week, even for a lot of people. But it's just this thing that goes, wow, this is fun to be here. I'm sure it's the exact same. I've never been to CrossFit Edwardsville. I guarantee you that it's the same environment as CrossFit Edwardsville. And the reason I know that is because the daytime classes have a good environment because Greg Skelly's there. He shows up with cold brew and is there with a big smile on his face and a Santa hat when it's Christmas time. And you see people like that and you go, yeah, this environment is going to continue to be good because the people that are being consistent, the people that are getting good, and that's who your leaders are, right? In jiu-jitsu, it should be, people think it's like, oh, the black belt is the leader, the top guy is the leader. But really, I can't lead 200 people. I can lead 10 people that lead 20 people each, right? And that is kind of how I think about it, is I just try to really focus on my leaders and just keep pumping them up, and they go and they find the Greg Skellys who go, whoa, I love this place because I like Dylan or Steve who teaches the classes that most of the classes that you attend. And I just think that is kind of like, that's our big thing, is how much we care about our core, our current customer. But also I always do try to push that the reason that we're there is to use jiu-jitsu to accomplish our dreams. Maybe that dream is to learn to defend yourself, right? Or for some people, it's to get in shape. But for a lot of my students now that have been doing it for a long time, their dream is to make a living doing jiu-jitsu, right? Is to not have to work in another job, but to be able to do jiu-jitsu. And I think that helping people use jiu-jitsu as a vehicle to get to their dreams is like, it's such a cool thing for me to be able to do. And the fact that I get paid to do it is like insane, you know?
That's awesome, dude. So like on that topic, like two things. First, I definitely know that there's something very, very different about how it feels when you walk into HeadNodHQ. Similarly, I'm proud to say there's something that's just different how it feels when you walk into CrossFit Revel. There's an energy, there's a vibe there, right? But that positive energy, positive vibe that you experience when you walk into the room, I think still pales to what I feel is like almost like a clarity of mind that happens after a great training session. I find like on the drive home, like all of a sudden, like my mind is just clearer. And I see more clearly, I think more clearly, I solve problems faster. There's something about facing down that person to person struggle, that person to person, like that grappling match where it's you versus them. It almost doesn't matter who wins. There's like this clarity and this peace that comes over you after you've had a hard sparring match, a hard grappling match that just it translates into other areas of life so much. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense.
I completely know what you mean. You know, some people like they talk about you have a good wolf and you have a bad wolf, and the one you feed, right, is the one that's stronger. And something that it feels like after a jiu-jitsu session is that you wore out the bad wolf. The bad wolf is he's not in your head as much anymore because he's just too tired. He's just, you know, that's who you have to use to fight is the bad wolf. And so you go out and you fight and you train hard and you get out this aggression and it just, you get done and you're like, hey, that aggression part of my brain is actually too wore out to interfere with my life right now.
I think that too, along with that, there's this part where like I've talked about this on the podcast before, like I'm honestly always kind of nervous anytime I go into a CrossFit workout. I know it's going to be very challenging. I know I'm going to be uncomfortable. And I'm always kind of nervous too when I go into that training session at HeadNodHQ. And I think this would be important I think a lot of people might be intrigued or attracted to the idea of jiu-jitsu, but they're thinking like, it's Fight Club. I don't want to go in there and have all of these big, mean people like kicking my ass, right? It's encouraging to know the people there are very respectful. They'll meet you where you are, and they'll let you practice your game at your level and build skills in a safe environment. Intellectually, it's good to know that. But even so, I find myself a little nervous every time I go in for a session. And I feel like every time I go in, do a CrossFit workout, do a jiu-jitsu session, the facing down those nerves, like the facing down those little anxiety demons or whatever it is, that for me, like that is the bad wolf. And once I face that down, it seems like everything else in life is just easier by comparison. Do you know what I mean?
I perfectly know what you mean. Anybody who struggles with anxiety on a day-to-day basis knows, hopefully knows what it feels like to get a win over your anxiety. I had a student this weekend and he suffers from some of the worst anxiety I've ever seen. And we went into this tournament this weekend. He hasn't competed in years. And we went in and said, hey, we're going to do this tournament and you're going to get nervous. It's going to be one of the worst experiences that you've ever experienced. You're probably going to have panic attacks, but we're going to get through it. And that was the conversation for months leading up to it. And we finally get to tournament day. And throughout the day, I probably had 20 different people come up to me and say, hey, have you talked to him? He looks really nervous. And I go, no, I talked to him for 3 months. He knows what he's doing. He's got it. And he went out and he won his first match against a guy who's actually at the belt lower, a world champion, and just got his next belt. And he beat this guy. He tapped him out really quickly. And normally you get the win and everyone cheers. He got the win, and there was like 5 seconds of silence. We all had our jaws open. Like we were watching this guy. We could see everybody was telling me, hey, you should talk to him. He's really struggling. And he just went out and conquered. He ended up going in his next match and winning that too, and winning the division. But
That's awesome.
It was just one of those, as soon as it got done, everybody agreed, well, there is no amount of anxiety that is an excuse to not compete after he just did it.
Sure. I think that so many of the people that we work with and talk to at CrossFit Edwardsville, they are leaders of business, they're leaders of industry, they're entrepreneurs like myself, like Dallas, like so many of our CrossFitters. And I believe with all my heart that the greatest plague of all entrepreneurs is that anxiety, because we're always forward thinking. We're always projecting out, okay, what is that problem that I have to solve? We're always trying to identify the next thing we have to overcome. And I personally feel like the greatest benefit to CrossFit, to Jiu-Jitsu, is the change between the ears, like where the anxiety kind of melts away. It goes away. After the session is done, you just feel better. You got a great sweat going. You've worked on your skills. Win, lose, or draw, it actually didn't matter, because like you just feel a lot better. And that's been huge for me. I know that like the same experience for Dallas, he has a CrossFit workout. You just feel better when you're done, as long as you made the right exercise choices and all that. So
yeah, and I would add to that, one of the things that there's always those workouts when I see them on the board, I just go, I'm going to fail that one. I will not hit the time cap, but facing down the failure is crucial as well. And even so when I went one time to the HeadNodHQ with G, and it was time to start rolling with the guys, and I was like, I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes getting it handed to me. And I was totally fine with that. But nonetheless, I was like, you know what? I get to play. I get to wrestle, just like I did when, as you mentioned earlier, Josh, I get to be a kid. I get to play with other guys in the room and get to sweat and have a good workout. It was, once I realized I'm there to learn, I'm there to play and have a great time. The failure it was secondary to the experience. And I think that's a really important lesson to learn through, whether it's jiu-jitsu or CrossFit or whatever it might be. We're going to face failure, and to be able to attack that with the idea of, okay, I may fail here, but I will. What's the old? You either win or you learn. You don't win or lose. You win or learn. And if we take failure at that, so I'm going to actually go back here, Josh, and I'm going to get back to you as the man and the entrepreneur. How has failure or even apparent failure set you up for success? I mean, maybe a better way to ask it would be, what's been your favorite failure?
My favorite failure has probably been, my favorite failure is probably just always my last one.
I love that answer.
I feel like because I've been doing jiu-jitsu for so long, jiu-jitsu, literally the only way to learn it is to lose infinity times, which is just obnoxious, right? The only way to get good is, okay, when we roll and it's like a sparring round, I'm going to lose that. And I need to lose 10,000 of those. And then I can beat up somebody, right? And then it's like, okay, but then we're going to break them down into even smaller rounds and just do these positions. You need to lose all these positions about 10,000 times too before you're good. And then you have to lose. It's just constant losing. And you start to realize that not only does losing not matter, like almost at all, you start to become callous to it. I've lost so many big tournaments. I've lost so many close matches. I've lost so many times at the gym. And every time what's always happened is it's been like I've dwelled on that loss a little less and a little less and a little less. And then what I started to do is I started to go, oh, there was a reason for that loss. And that reason was me. Me and one of the other coaches on our team tried to do, we really pushed hard to try to win the team title this tournament. It would have been the biggest team title that we've ever really pushed and won. And we were in the lead on the first day, and we pushed it, and we ended up losing by 10 points in like the last matches of the day. And it really, the sucky thing was we didn't even have competitors. It was like during where the white belts compete, and we didn't even have competitors in these divisions. So we just had to hope that the teams behind us didn't win the divisions, and they did. And we were like, man, that sucks. And my friend Junior started getting on some of our students that didn't stay for their second division. You don't have to do it. They won their divisions. They didn't fight in what's called the open class. And he started getting on them. And I grabbed Junior. I said, hey, man, I have some bad news. And he goes, what? I go, this is our fault. I said, all we had to do was bring 5 white belts and we won.
Right.
If we just convince 5 people to sign up, we win. And I go, that's on us, man. We gotta be better about that.
Yeah.
And when you look at failure like that, and yes, we failed. I was sad. I had to stand up on the second place podium, and I was sad. I was like, man, I thought we were going to win. I wanted to win. But then I look back and I go, man, how much did it motivate my guys that they probably worked as hard as they could for it? And, my friend Junior's guys, like they worked as hard. All the people on our team worked so hard, but we still lost. And how much does that motivate them? We didn't lose by a mile. We lost by an inch though. And they go, oh, wait a second. We could be something, we could really do this. And I almost think it was better that we lost than that we would have won, because if we win, we would have driven home and said, oh, good job, guys. We won. Right. We did it. But we lost, and we drove home for 4 hours and said, what do we need to change? What do we need to do better? How can we grow from this?
I remember
there's one of the most famous CrossFit competitors, a guy named Rich Frohning.
I was going to say this same story. Go for it,
G. So Rich Frohning emerged on the scene something like 2011, and just a phenomenal talent who lived and breathed kicking ass at CrossFit, made it to the CrossFit Games, was leading. He was in first place up until the very last event of the CrossFit Games. And he learned in the last event had some rope climbs, and he had not practiced or trained rope climbs whatsoever. He couldn't climb the stupid rope, and he lost first place, the gold medal, the championship, everything, to the guy that could climb the rope. And it was just snatched away from him in that last minute. In the 11th hour, lost the CrossFit Games. And he credits that moment as the reason that he went and won the next 5 CrossFit Games, because it lit such a fire to be so good and do so well and still lose in the last possible minute. And so in his book, he said
that silver medal that kills them all.
The silver medal. I say in his book, he says, if I hadn't failed that rope, I would never have been a CrossFit champion.
Yeah.
I get that. There's something, there is something sweet about losing and being close. And you said, man, if I had just been a little sharper, if I had just been a little better. And that's one of the most motivating things is, you can always, failing a bunch really shows you what your limit actually is.
Right.
I watched one of my students in one of the tightest chokes I've ever seen this weekend get out. And Greg, it was your coach, Dylan. Yeah. He was in the tightest choke I have ever seen anyone in 14 years escape from. And he was losing the match, so it wasn't even like he escaped and was in a good spot. And he still got out. He just kept fighting the whole time. We had the place roaring, and he came back and tapped the guy out with like a minute left in the fight.
That's awesome.
And you see those things and you go, if we weren't in the gym a few weeks before when Dylan was in the middle after class and he did a 7-minute round with a new person each minute, and the last 2 rounds were guys on his back trying to choke him. And, we're all buddies, but for that, when we're pushing each other for a big tournament, you're trying to choke him. And he survived those. And he realized, oh, my limit is much further than I thought it was. And when we were there, the other coaches were actually going, he's done. It's over. It's over.
Oh,
and
wow.
seconds keep going, and he's surviving. We're telling him technically what to do. And Junior, my friend that I had referenced, he's Brazilian. He yells, he hits me in the shoulder and he goes, his hands are weak. And then he goes, Dylan, his hands are weak. His hands are weak. And we go, wait, his hands are tired. He's going to lose that grip. And Dylan gets out and he gets on top, and we brought the heat for about 1.5 minutes and won the match.
That's awesome.
And it just, those things come only from failing in the gym and knowing that wasn't my limit. I could have pushed further than that. I could have pushed further. And then you find out, like, this is what 100% really is.
Yeah. That makes me think, and you said something a little bit ago there, Josh, about build up those calluses to failure. And it makes me think of David, taking it away from jiu-jitsu or even CrossFit. David Goggins refers to that as callous your mind. Face those he has failed on so many ultra marathons, but he's succeeded at so many more because he's learned to callous his mind through those defeats. So that's very cool. I'm sure we could go on with these kind of war stories forever.
All the ones I've talked about are just from last Saturday, man.
Yeah, right? We forget. So for everybody, just so you know, Josh, are you single host or co-host?
I am the only host.
All right, so he has a podcast, everybody, called I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show. And that you could definitely check out, and you could hear these stories. But I feel like, we just need to have him on for a whole series here to talk more stories of what they've gone through. This is good stuff.
Well, Josh is an interesting character. Like, you're a podcast host, you're a jiu-jitsu coach, you're a jiu-jitsu competitor, a business owner, and you have a lot of like irons in the fire. Like, what is the best part of your work, Josh? Like, if there's something you would love to experience work-wise every day, what would that be?
Honestly, everything I do now, I really do. I don't think that there's anything besides growing my gym more and growing the brands and businesses more. But for what I do in the businesses, I really think it's what I was made to do. I think that when I go to those jiu-jitsu tournaments, I see people that I've fought for 14 years and now we're all coaches, and we get to see each other and talk. I go, yeah, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be today. And I see my guys that lose, and I talk to them, and we talk through it, and we experience the loss, and because it's okay. And then my guys that win, and they're so proud, and we talk through it, and we look at what we're going to do next and how we're going to grow from this too. When I do those things, like, those are the things that obviously to me, I can go, this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I get to do those things as a brand too with my podcast, because really that's all my podcast is me kind of saying, okay, I have a new group of people that I'm coaching in jiu-jitsu, and they can be people from anywhere that just want to hear me talk about jiu-jitsu for an hour and how to think about it and how to progress at it. And so, like, teaching and, as you put, teaching and motivating on the thing, that's really what I think I was called to do.
That's awesome.
So let's flip the script on it a little bit.
Yeah.
So then, what is the hardest or the worst part of your work? Like, if you could make one problem go away forever, Josh, what would it be?
I would have push button advertising. I would hit enter and my ads would start, and they would be good for whichever I'm doing, for my gym, for Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu, our production company, for my podcast. I would be able to hit enter. I would put however many dollars in and get however many dollars out. And that would be the only thing that I would change. And I'm trying to change it right now, because at the gym, I hired my wife as the general manager, even though she got the money anyway, tricked her, and she's the general manager now. But, since we've done that, she's been able to start to figure out marketing more, and she's doing it on her own. And so hopefully that one thing, the worst thing for me, is eliminated.
Man, so Josh, I'm going to need to just hit you up separately on that, because I can't get my wife to help me with the marketing side of what I do at all. So we might need to have that conversation separately offline. I'm like, honey, I really hate the marketing. Don't you want to help? You're more beautiful.
For us, it was that she started to get in jiu-jitsu. She never, I mean, we've been together for 10 years, and she didn't really start getting into it until about a year and a half ago. And
Okay.
when that happened, then that move of general manager made sense, because I'm like, babe, you're at the gym every single night. You know, you do more at the gym now than I do. And that's just kind of how it morphed.
Awesome.
Sure.
So let me ask you this, Josh. You know, switching away just a little bit here. Well, I guess it has to do overall with the development and the growth of you as a, not just an entrepreneur, but as a person. What would you say in the last 5 years, what new belief or what new behavior or new habit has most improved your life?
Seeing things from multiple perspectives. I think for a long time, I always, as probably a lot of young kids my age do, I saw things from one perspective and said, well, this is how I see it, so this has to be truth.
Sure.
And when I started to realize, and this was with everything, you know, it's with how the methods I used for training jujitsu, and how I dieted, how everything was, I saw things very clearly from my point of view. And in the last few years, I think I just honestly have been developing a little more empathy and starting to be able to see things from other people's point of view. For example, I had somebody say something negative about me, you know, not long ago. Me and my dad were talking about it, and he said, "Does that bother you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course it bothers me, but he could be right." You know, they really could be. I don't believe that they are, but that doesn't mean that they aren't, you know? And
Right.
I started to realize when I stopped saying, this is the way, this is the secret sauce, this is the everything, and I started to go, not only is this task accomplishable, but there are probably 3 or 4 ways to accomplish it. Which one benefits me the most? Which one do I
Yeah.
like to do the most? When I started to look at things from different perspectives, it really did change. It changed how good of a coach I was. It changed how I ran my businesses. It really changed everything for me.
Yeah. I think that's such a crucial, I'm sitting on the other side of 28. I'll just be honest. I'm a few years older than you. And I think that's one of the essential skills in our entire society that everyone should adopt. I think you're dropping a real knowledge bomb there when it comes to look at it from the other side and I love the people who can talk their way around a problem and view it from every side rather than just always assume the approach they learned at 12 is the correct approach still. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
So then I want to give you an opportunity to shout out some of the people that you need to credit, Josh. Mentors have been the most influential on you in your personal success, your business success. Like, who are those people that coached you to success, and what did they teach you? What did you learn from them?
Man, the 2 biggest ones are my dad and my jiu-jitsu coach, Kyle. Just 2 men that have been in my life for a very, you know, obviously my dad my whole life, and Kyle for at this point half of my life. And both guys really taught me hard work. They really did. They really taught me the grind. I mean, I got to see Kyle as a no-name MMA fighter get to the Ultimate Fighter and then fight in the UFC, and then create his own gym that was small and turn it into one of the most, if not the most successful gym in the Midwest. And I got to watch him do that. I got to watch my dad run a church and be this great leader. And just how he handled, like, something specific with my dad was how he handled the negative parts of leadership when people would come against him, and when things would get tough, and when there would be failures and you had to take the blame for it. And learning how to do that, he was big on. But specifically with my coach, Kyle, he was so big on always being willing to learn. He was like, no matter what, you don't know yet, you could learn more. It could be simpler, it could be easier, it could be better. And he's always been like that. And when you have a mentality like that, it's like an infinite mentality. You know, it's not an end goal. You just keep with everything. There's got to be a better way. We could do it better. We could do it easier, simpler, more efficiently. And and that was something those are my two main mentors, I think.
I could tell we were talking to a PK. I could tell we were talking. To
Yeah.
So I'm a PK as well. And for those who don't know, who are listening or watching, PK is pastor's kid. But I could tell
they're the
early
worst
on,
ones.
I could tell, Josh, you were. I could feel it on you, brother. It takes a PK to know a PK, and I felt
really
it
does.
Yeah, that's awesome. So so not just mentors. What about some influential books, either personal or business success, or what lessons have you learned from those influential books, and which ones would you maybe recommend?
Man, I know it's just so basic, but because everybody recommends it, but the 4 Hour Work Week really is how I ran my business. And the reason it was because when I started my jiu-jitsu business, I wasn't making any money. I was working full time as a personal trainer. And so for the first 3 years, I was doing both. And so efficiency was just so important in my business.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I read it multiple times and I looked at it differently each time I read it. And what really happened was I just started to approach every problem that I was having at the gym with the lens of efficiency. And, how could it be more efficient? How could it be more efficient? Because I don't have time. But then when it was time for me to transfer, like when it was time for me to stop being a personal trainer, now I had time because I built a gym that it was a 4 hour work week, or it was probably, a 10-hour work week at the gym for me at the time. And I was making money. So then I had all kinds of free time to do other things. And for me, it was really just to be able to train. I had time to be able to train twice a day now because I wasn't working 2 jobs.
Cool. So looking at things differently, this is a question we love to ask our guests. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that Josh McKinney loves?
Josh McKinney. Oh, man, something absurd, unusual habit. Honestly, I probably am an unusual habit. There is, I think I'm a pretty quirky person. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Uh, I'm an extrovert that is actually an introvert. I love to talk to people. I love to have conversations, but I don't get energized by them. They zap my energy. And so there are just certain things that from that make for a weird person. Something big that is quirky that I think it really fits who I am is I feel like I've probably been wearing a fanny pack a lot longer than most people since they've come back and been cool. And I think that really shows who I am as a person. There's always some preparation, but it's pretty loose. And then we're going to feel it out on the way there. And we also don't care how we look. That's really, I think a good definition of me. That's
the fanny pack analogy.
It.
That's
fantastic. You and John Danaher are bringing back the fanny pack, man.
I'm trying.
That's also an old school pro wrestler thing. They used to travel around with their fanny packs all the time.
Used to. That's that's where a lot of what I know about being cool comes from is 90s pro wrestling.
Heck yeah.
And so, hey, these guys were cool when they did it, so I assume this is cool.
Yeah.
You and Dallas could wax poetic on 90s pro wrestling for hours. I promise that.
I feel like, Josh, you and I are going to have just a whole separate conversation about PKs. PKs. So one of the things I do in my business is I actually work with introverted entrepreneurs, because a lot of people don't believe that I'm an introvert either, that I don't get the energy from the crowds or anything. So we could have that. We could talk pro wrestling. You're my brother from another mother, but I think I just found another one.
Something we all have in common here, Josh, is all of us are highly introverted entrepreneurs that found it very useful to learn all of these extrovert skills. And because we're all obsessed with learning and growing and evolving and improving our skill set. We've all gotten to be pretty damn good at it. But for real, like to charge our batteries, we need to be left the hell alone.
Well, let me ask you this, Josh. We're going to start landing the plane here in just a moment. What would you say you are most proud of in your business? Not your life, but your business.
Man, honestly, it's I guess this is part of life too, but in my business that it provides for my life. The fact that I get to go and be able to travel just at the drop of the hat and be able to travel with my students. And I didn't compete this weekend. I was just there to coach. And the fact that I can do that in Indianapolis, and then next week we'll be in I think we're in Springfield, Missouri. The next week we're in Vegas. And then a day later we're in Florida, and doing that and coaching all these different guys and all these different tournaments, having a business that provides that is very unique in probably anything, but especially in jiu-jitsu. Not a lot of jiu-jitsu businesses make much money, and especially enough to be able to try to go and compete at an international level. And so that's probably the biggest thing that I'm happy about in my business. I'm proud of.
That's awesome.
What about in life?
Yeah.
What are you most proud of in life?
Man, I honestly, I'm most proud of just that I'm happy. I think that that's something that's not, that I'm content, I guess. I guess that's an odd thing to be proud of, but everybody has the Philippians 4:13 tattoo that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But what they're talking about in that verse is being content. And I think that the fact that people use that verse for all these other big things, but they're saying, hey, one of the hardest things is just to learn to be content no matter what the situation is. And I feel like if I have that, then my business could fail and it would be okay because I've learned to be content.
That's awesome.
I'm glad you brought that up. I have a thing about that verse because, like, in the context, that verse isn't saying I can run 100 miles. That verse is saying I can be perfectly content while in prison. Because I have learned to see things differently. Christ gives me the strength to be content and at peace right where I am, even if it's in the fire.
That is the truth.
It's something, it's one of those verses that I believe it sits in the top 5 of most miscontextual or most misquoted, along with, I know the plans I have for you, where 2 or 3 are gathered. A lot of people get a few of those wrongs. We could go down that rabbit hole, but we won't. Josh, what would you say as you're kind of looking ahead? While you are content, you're not going to be here forever. What would you say most excites you about the future, or what are you most looking forward to?
By far, what I'm most looking forward to is 10, 15 years from now. I plan to still have my school. I'll probably have, I have 2 schools, but I'll probably have a few more. But the guys that I have now are going to be really good jiu-jitsu coaches, and they're going to be taking ideas that I gave them when they were young and expanding on them and making them 10 times better. And, legacy never dies. And so that's what I am hoping to accomplish. That's really what I look forward to the absolute most.
That's awesome.
Awesome, man. It's the Watson lineage, right?
Yes.
Watson to Josh McKinney to all the sub schools they'll develop from there.
All of the rest of the dog pound.
Love it, man. So, all right. If you could make one statement to the world, Josh, what would it be? Or to put it another way, if you had to choose one thing to say on a billboard that it's going to be seen by thousands or millions of people, what would it say? What would that billboard say?
It would say, try jiu-jitsu. You don't have to do it. It is not for everybody. But I think so many people would really at least be better prepared to deal with so many problems that they have in life if they had a place like a jiu-jitsu school where they got to go and they got to fight and they got to work hard, but they also got to see their friends, and they have a community that works towards a bigger goal, right? Or just works for something. And I think so few people in life that you see, and we don't realize this, but so few people get greeted on a day-to-day basis and somebody's actually happy that they're there. And in jiu-jitsu, you develop these crazy strong friendships. And if you're gone for a week and then you show up to class, people are like, oh my gosh, I missed you. I didn't know when you were coming back. You didn't tell us you were going to be gone for a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I was on a cruise. Like, but we didn't know that, and how many people really get that? I really think that the community aspect is just so unique. It's so cool. And if somebody could most gyms have a paid or a free trial. And if somebody just went in and did that trial, I think it would change a lot of people's lives if they just did that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So Josh, we've been throwing your handles up here for those who are watching the video version of this, but for the audio version, tell people where they can reach out to you or get in touch about HeadNodHQ.
So if you guys go to the HeadNodHQ Instagram, that is run by my wife. That is just at HeadNodHQ. It really, that's kind of where we've pushed our marketing towards, is Instagram now. And so just the organic marketing of it. If you want to follow what's going on at the gym, there is so much information about that at HeadNodHQ. But also, if you want to follow me personally, at the Josh McKinney on Instagram is probably the best place to do it. That's where I post pretty much updates on everything. If you do jiu-jitsu though, and you want advice on being a better grappler, or you decide to start jiu-jitsu and you decide you want advice on being a better grappler, my show, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, is definitely the thing to listen to. I really don't think that there is any podcast out there that does as good of a job as helping you learn jiu-jitsu. There could be, I could be wrong, right? It's my opinion, but that is my opinion about it. I just don't think that people look at it with enough perspectives. And I think that it's probably most beneficial for people that are trying to get better.
Well, let me just do a quick plug, everybody. Not only check out a show, but subscribe to a show and rate and review them as well. Give him a 5-star review, give him a 5-star rating, and help him get his numbers up, because what he's doing is awesome here. And then obviously you can also just go to headnodhq.com for that as well. But I love that quote, Josh. Try jiu-jitsu. Boom.
Cool.
We got so many knowledge bombs here today. G, this has been awesome. Josh, thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you to you, Josh. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to come and join and be a guest on the podcast. It's been a lot of fun. Very enlightening for us. We've learned a lot. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I really enjoyed. Thank you guys for having me on. I really enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, awesome. So everybody, as always, you can check out CrossFitEdwardsville.com. And when you are ready to take that leap into the world of CrossFit, you can, on our website, click that button that says book a no sweat conversation. But be sure and check out HeadNodHQ online as well at HeadNodHQ. And thank you again, Josh. As we always like to say here as we leave everybody, go out there, have a championship day.